so Richland County will be leading a community among the nation, and that wasn't really something we talked about in our retreat. So I did ask them to revise, to remove that, but definitely open to any one of those suggestions if you felt as if that was discussed and should remain.
Correct, and you're correct, Ms. Mackey. It should, I see that the report still shows among the nation, so we'll be happy to remove that if that's the consensus. We wanted to represent really the leading aspect of it within the vision statement, and the nation was mentioned more in the previous vision statement, so we're happy to remove that, and we can replace it by just saying Richland County will be a leading community, providing steadfast resolution in the sight of challenges and prompting equitable, sustainable, and valuable growth and living for all residents. The county will be a foundation for collaboration as we learn from history and continue to create long-lasting impact in the future.
Yes, Ms. McBride?
Madam Chair, you requested that they delete among the nation because this was not discussed in the strategic planning meeting. Is that what you're
Correct,
saying?
on November 15th.
So in terms for including that, would you need a motion to change it or to let it stay in?
Well, the draft itself, the document was a complete draft, so it was kind of them combining their notes from our meeting. So we never made any action on it at the retreat. It was kind of their interpretation of all of our conversations.
I guess I'm not understanding why we were moving among the nation.
So my thought.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Mackey.
No, I'm thinking that it should stay. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Why. So in my recollection of conversations in our strategic planning retreat on November 15th, when we had our section where we discussed what should our vision statement look at, we went through this exercise where everyone gave their feedback. And throughout that, when we talked about our vision, we didn't use the word nation. It wasn't something that folks used when they talked about the new vision for the county. And so when she included it in the draft statement for the new vision, it, to my recollection, wasn't what was discussed. So that's why I pointed out.
Madam Chair, so we would have an opportunity to add it at a different time if we wanted to include it, because the council has to vote on this.
Well, we can talk about it now, or yes.
I just recommend that, we want to be leading among the nation. I think it's a good statement myself. And I think we should maintain the among the nation. And I would make a, if it's appropriate, to make a motion that we leave among the nation.
All right, motion dies for lack of a second. Ms. Newton?
I guess I could have seconded it for the
okay.
Part of my question is in terms of this process, and just so that I'm understanding it. So, because this is a draft document, so we're giving feedback that, as Ms. McBride said, is going to come back to full council. So I guess I wasn't aware that we needed to make motions to.
We don't.
That was my question.
Okay, so that's why I wasn't trying to.
Okay, that was my, thank you. That was my initial question, that do we need to make a motion, or is this just a vision, and when it comes back to full council, we'll have the opportunity to discuss it?
Yes, ma'am. So this is a draft for them that they delivered. This document will go and be used at our actual retreat as a full council where we will talk about it.
That was my initial question.
Yes.
That's what I kept saying.
This is the draft. Do we feel like from the retreat that we had that Baker Tilly has adequately put this together and that this document is complete and representative of what we discussed, so that when we get
I'm fine with that. That's why I kept saying, is this a draft? Can we make changes or what?
You can make changes, yes, ma'am. This is kind of, if there's any concern. So
I'm good. Thank you.
That was mine with the draft vision statement. Yes, Ms. Newton.
Thank you. And I mean, organizations can spend 5 million hours wordsmithing all of this, and so that's not what I'm going for. But just two things that I would like to add on the vision is, one is I actually don't understand what the word resolution here means, providing steadfast resolution in sight of challenges. So it seems like it's probably a great thing. I would just like for somebody to explain that to me. And then I know that we're trying to find the right adjective to describe growth, and unfortunately I had one in my mind and I forgot it. I don't know that, I don't think it's exciting growth. I don't know that it's valuable growth. But we certainly want it to be equitable. We certainly want it to be sustainable. I'm there 100%. I also support us having a triad there. I'm just not sure that valuable is that third adjective. I mean, the idea that I think that we're looking for, in addition to, equitable and sustainable, I'm not saying this is what it needs to be, but is, what our residents are looking for is a quality of life. They're looking for, growth that really corresponds with the kinds of communities that they want to live in. And I don't know what that other adjective is, but I think valuable is kind of vague in this sense. And so I would just ask that we look for some additional options there. And then just while I have the floor, I'll say that in general, I mean, this document does reflect my recollection of what happened at the event. And I know that we're going to be fleshing out more at the strategic retreat, or the council retreat, pardon me.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Newton. Melanie, did you understand or make sure you could hear all those comments?
Yes. So just
Okay.
to kind of recap, it sounded like Ms. Newton wanted us to revisit the steadfast resolution as well as the valuable objective in the vision statement. And in terms of the resolution, I think that kind of really stemmed from being able to respond to challenges. I think some of that came up in our SWOT analysis, being able to learn from the past, move that towards the future, but being able to kind of respond quickly to citizens and stakeholders as appropriate. But certainly if there are other thoughts or, suggestions for how we want to wordsmith that language, we're happy to incorporate.
Thank you. I guess from my perspective, that's helpful. Steadfast resolution, though, sounds like something else. I mean, so what you were talking about was not necessarily decisive, but you were talking about, taking firm action and being proactive, and resolution in this case, it seems like it's related to resolve, as in my constitution and my willingness to, I don't know, I know what resolve means, I can't define it right now, but what you're really talking about is action, so that we're leading among the community, among the nation. I don't know, I'm making this up, it's not this, but, proactively addressing challenges to me seems like more of the idea, as opposed to us just standing steadfast while we look at the challenges. Again, I completely trust you guys to come back with some words, but that's what it more sounds like to me that we're looking for.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that feedback. We will certainly revisit the vision statement, and we can look to incorporating some time perhaps during the next planning meeting to revisit and just fine tune what this vision statement looks like, if that's appropriate.
Thank you. The draft mission statement that was provided, I did not have any edits to it. I felt like it was, it captured it well after going through our exercise. Not sure if any of my other colleagues had any comments on the mission statement.
Ms. Mack, I have other thoughts when we get to the strategic goals and objectives, so
Okay.
just let me know when it's time.
Okay. All right. So strategic goals, we went through all of the exercises that Baker Tilly performed and developed overall 7 strategic goals. I won't read them all to you guys because you have them in the packet, but happy to walk through any or all of them as desired. Ms. Newton?
I think that I just want to offer some additional language for our consideration that maybe we'll discuss just in terms of around public engagement, which I think is an important part of what we talked about. I mean, there's information that we might put out, but there's that idea that we are engaged with our constituents that I think is important. And I think that there's a lot of, for lack of a better word, education that needs to happen with our constituents. There's a lot of things that are happening there, but again, I just think it's engagement, and so I don't know if that language can fit in there somewhere. But I do think that is related to the trust building that's part of our objectives. You know, we know a lot of the things that we're doing, but if we're not engaging the public, then we don't have an opportunity to build those bridges.
Thank you. Ms. McBride?
I'm sorry at a disadvantage because I unfortunately was sick and not able to attend the workshop, so I could come and go through this whole thing and tear it up. So,
well, let's hope that's not what to do.
So I'm not going to make any comments, but I'm not going to make comments not because I'm not interested, but you've already gone through the whole process, and so I'm not going to go back and redo the process that you've already done.
Yes,
but I would. I see where we invest in economic development. I think a very important component is workforce development. And I don't see it any place unless it's back in the program somewhere. So I think that's a very important component, and I don't know whether that was discussed or not. Workforce development.
Yes, ma'am. And Melanie, did you hear that? Can we kind of just make sure we have that notated as we go into our future discussions and as we start looking at objectives of how to achieve some of these goals?
Yes, absolutely. I'll make a note of it. I think it broke up a little bit, but just to kind of recap, we want to revisit an idea of workforce development within a strategic goal number 2, which is investing in our economic development. Is that correct?
Yes, I couldn't hear you well.
Oh, is that what you said?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, she agrees with that. Thank you, Melanie.
Okay, perfect.
Becky?
Yes. Ms. Newton?
Yes. Well, so first, I do agree with Ms. McBride on the workforce development, and if it's appropriate, I'll just mention that in the conversation that I'd had with Ms. Thomas, that when we go to the retreat, Ms. McBride, we're going to be fleshing out what we think the additional components are that go under each of these, so that this isn't the idea is that we would be bringing more, whether it's workforce development or something else. And I'll let you, Ms. Mackey, address any other part of the process. But I support that addition, but any other additions would be coming too.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Okay. All right. Any other comments or thoughts on the 7 draft strategic goals that came out of the strategic planning meeting? So again, Baker Tilly held the full day session. We participated in exercises, gave our feedback, and through that, they were able to take all of our responses, including responses from staff and the public, and put everything together to narrow it into 7 key strategic goal areas. And they've defined those here. The next steps that Baker Tilly has planned and that we will be participating in is using this document in our council retreat in January. This document will serve as our guide to then start developing additional objectives that are tied to these strategic goals. And we will walk through that process together as a full council to fill it in and develop priorities and timeline, as well as working with staff to look at our budget as we begin to plan for next year. Ms. Newton.
Thank you, Ms. Mack. So if I understand that we're going to use this document as a basis in January, and that makes sense. If others, like staff or whatever, are going to be contributing additional ideas that they have, my question is that information that is going to be shared with us in advance so we can be considering it? I'm not asking that it be incorporated into the document without our approval, but just to avoid us being surprised, is that information that we'll get?
I guess I want to know what you mean by additional information that staff has. Staff participated and they've given their feedback. They won't be providing any additional feedback.
Okay.
But they will. Go ahead.
Well, maybe I misheard. And so what I thought that Ms. Thomas had mentioned in our conversation was that, for example, staff might be looking at what these strategic areas were, and then kind of doing a mapping process saying, oh, well, we already have this initiative towards this and this initiative towards that, and these are some of the budget implications. And so I was wondering if that advance work was indeed going to be done, if that was something that was going to be shared in advance. But maybe I heard wrong.
No, ma'am, you did not hear wrong. I guess my initial comment was, so staff won't be providing anything new. This is the document, yes. So I just want to make sure when we talk about staff providing.
I mean, supporting.
Yes, so the supporting information as we begin to look at strategic goals.
Okay,
so yes, if we feel this is good and Baker Tilly addresses additional concerns that were brought up today, then in preparation for our council retreat, yes, staff will look at the goals that we have, and they will provide additional information that relates to these goals. So if we are currently working on initiatives that may fall in one of these 7 goals, yes, they'll put together a list as well as initiatives that we are currently doing that may not fall into these goals so that we can look at it as a whole and council can make a decision on how we're moving forward altogether. And yes, that information will be shared. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? I know we have a few other of our colleagues here. Chairman Livingston.
Chairman Livingston, unfortunately, is so busy. Really did.
Okay. Councilman Pugh, Councilwoman Barron, or Ms. Yes, sir. Mr. Pugh.
I just wanted to say, Councilwoman Mackey, thank you for taking the lead on this. This is something that we've been talking about since we've come to council to make sure that we have some direction. Baker Tilly, I think they did a wonderful job, and I'm looking forward to us fleshing this out and presenting a final product.
Yeah. Yes, Ms. McBride.
Yeah, under the draft strategic goals, I see we have inclusiveness. How are we defining? That was.
So, I think Ms. Brown, we had that conversation. If you look on page 17, we, as a group, narrowed it down to 4 kind of key areas. And so establish plans and success metrics that enable smart growth, coordinate departments to prepare for planned growth in areas by providing water, sewer, and roads in proper locations, create excellent amenities and facilities, and provide equitable living and housing options. And so I think as we meet at the retreat, the council retreat, we can say, okay, what falls under these things? What objectives fall under these broader topics?
Equitable government.
Yes, ma'am. We all agree. At the retreat, we all agreed about
strategic goal.
Yes,
I didn't
ma'am.
see it as a strategic goal. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts from anyone else? All right. Well, Melanie, thank you to you and Baker Tilly for pulling this document together. You have our notes from today, and I think my colleagues, if they have any additional thoughts or comments, we'll be sure to share those with you And then once you are able to update this, you can send out an updated document. Again, we will have this in preparation for our retreat in January.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone,
Um,
for the feedback, and this was very helpful for us, and we enjoyed this process, and we're looking forward to the next one in January.
Thank you. And just to remind everybody, in January, our first day of the retreat will be similar to kind of the full day strategic planning retreat that we did in November, so that we can have time to fully go through all the strategic goals and identify objectives and walk out with a plan that we all feel comfortable with. And so Baker Tilly will be there to help lead us again and get all this pulled together. So if we don't have any other thoughts or comments,
Move to adjourn.
McBride? Yes. Mackey?
yes.
Newton?